Hello, I'm going to be talking about Clerkenwell Design Week today and all the amazing brands that I found, the UK brands in particular. There was tons to see, but first I just want to introduce myself. Hello, if you're new here, I'm Emma Morton-Turner. I'm an interior stylist of 20-something years. I don't like to say because it ages me. And I am also the founder of Inside Stylists, which is a website and platform to be found as an interior stylist, writer, assistant, and photographer. So we do everything from editorial to commercial photo shoots and features. We do everything. And we get invited to Clerkenwell Design Week every year because we want to be kind of included in what's going on in the interiors world from a designer's perspective. But it's also really important that we know what's going on for features, keeping up with interiors news, knowing about technology and how things are changing, how materials are changing, how people are using lots of eco things. So that is why we get invited to Clerkenwell Design Week. I should probably explain what it is. If you've never been or you've never heard of it, it's a design festival. I think that's how they would start. That's how they would call it. And it started off, I don't actually know when it started. I know I've been going for a good few years, and it used to be a set of streets. We would get invited to the press launch and we would go to a big room and there'd be croissants and juice and drinks and coffee. And you say hello to all your friends, and then you would have some people do some talks, some speeches, talk about what to expect. And then they'd take you on a little tour. And then the tour would show you a road or two. You'd probably spend 20 minutes, half an hour walking around. And then you'd go off on your own and you'd go and look at all those places that they pointed out. Go check out this person, they're doing new fabrics, and go look at this one, they've got new wall coverings. And they can't do that anymore because every year it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's actually, personally, I find it quite overwhelming. Now, it's an event that lasts 3 days, but as an interior stylist, I can only really afford 1 day out of the office. And I think that's the case with most interiors stylists and writers, because we have to be writing, we have to be working, we have to be researching and contacting and getting in touch with clients and things like that. So we don't have more than 1 day to spend at Clerkenwell, and you can't do it in 1 day because it's sprawling now. It's absolutely massive. But I met an interior stylist friend and we went round together, and it was a very inspiring day. It was really nice to catch up with a friend. It was really nice to have company. It's always good to have company. If you ever get invited to something like this, find someone who is in the same industry as you, who also wants to get all that kind of knowledge and has the same kind of vision, and go around with them. I don't know why, but what's jumped into my head is my friend Debbie. Whenever I go to, this is completely off topic, but whenever I go to boot sales or charity shops with my friend Debbie, she always goes straight for fashion. I always go straight for interiors, and there's no clashing. We're never kind of looking at the same things, trying to get the same things. And that's how it feels when you go with someone like an interior stylist who's into the same thing as you. They want to get the same knowledge as you. Probably not a very good comparison, but I don't know. It just jumped in my mind. I like to share these things with you. So, yeah, I had a really good day, but it was absolutely exhausting because you are on your feet the whole day. You are running around. You are literally walking from one place to another. I had a hit list of places I wanted to see, some press contacts that I wanted to catch up with and say hello, see their brands, see what their brands were doing that were new. And there's lots of destinations, like there's lots of buildings that are like churches. There's the upstairs of a church and the downstairs of a church that is just showcasing there was actually a best of British. And that's kind of what started off with this episode, because I thought this is great. There's so much homegrown talent. And as I was writing it out originally, I realised that I can't really say best of British because some of them are Scottish and some of them are Welsh. So I've made it a UK. So anyway, no more chatter. Let's get on and talk about the first one that I want to share with you. So the first is the collaboration between Coat Paints and Kirkby by Design. The two have come together and created 12 paint ranges that go very well or perfectly with their, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, their Air collection of fabrics. Air as in H-E-I-R. That's how you spell air, isn't it? And the colours are brilliant. Each fabric comes with 2 different tonal, calm, just beautiful fabrics. And it was quite interesting. We walked into, oh my goodness, what was the name of that place? Customs House. We walked into Customs House, which is an amazing building. If you ever get to go to Customs House in Clerkenwell, I believe it's like it's either a workspace or a members club, but it's a really amazing building. Like you walk in and there's just like a double staircase and it's all open. But really good place to showcase brands. And we saw this kind of stand with the paints, and they were standing chatting to us. I think he was the CEO, was telling us about the collection and how it came about. And it was really interesting. The colours were beautiful, really. I mean, of course they're beautiful. And of course I'm going to love them because I love paints. But he was talking all about how they came about and that they were the first people to develop the peel and stick paint samples. And I was saying I really want to do I've done a little thing before where I have paints from a company when they're launching a new colourway, and I paint something, and I did it for Designers Guild a while ago now, and I just painted up loads of books and then shot them at home, and I love doing that. And I told this guy from Coates Paints that I really want to do something with this new collection, and he said yes, so I need to actually get actual samples. I don't even know if they do actual samples, if they do the peel and stick samples. I'm hoping they do. Because then I turned around and I saw the lovely Ian, who's the PR contact for Romo. Kirkby by Design is part of the Romo group. So I kind of didn't even see him standing in the corner, and I was like, oh, hello. And we were chatting because Romo is a really good company. They use a lot of, they're starting to use a lot of recycled fabrics or yarns to make their fabrics. Ian just sent me some really, really beautiful, I want to say voiles, but they're not even voiles. They're more like, they're like a very fine sheer linen at the window, but not solid, but not completely sheer. And they're really beautiful, and they're 100% recycled, and they're amazing. They're like 3 meters wide, just gorgeous. So I'm really, really I'm always promoting and always happy to share brands that are making a really big commitment to being conscious about the way they're designing. So I did actually mention to the lovely Ian that when I get the Coates paints, I need to get the Kirkby fabrics to go with it. And I've had a really good idea, but I'm not going to share it now. I'm going to have a think and try and get hold of all the samples and then create a little blog post sharing the new paints and the new fabrics all together. I do get excited about these things, don't I? Anyway, moving on, the next British brand. Now, if you've been around here for any time at all on the podcast, I interviewed the lovely guys, Tom and Jamie from Divine Savages. Now, I looked this up when I was writing the blog post and about Clerkenwell, and I thought, oh yeah, I spoke to them a few years ago when they were just getting going. That was 2017. I went to their house in 2017 or 2018, and I hosted an event at their house for them, and it was brilliant. And I'm absolutely obsessed with their dinosaurs wallpaper, which I have on my wall in my bathroom, and I'm nearly ready to shoot this bathroom that's taken 400 years to shoot to finish. But they have they're local. They were at the time living in New Cross, which isn't a million miles away from where I live, and they designed this dinosaur wallpaper, and it's the dinosaurs from Crystal Palace, and I grew up with Crystal Palace dinosaurs, so I have such a love for them. So they're on my bathroom wall, all sealed and looking fantastic. It's been up for about a year, and yes, I know I should have shot it, but it's been up for about a year and it looks brilliant. And my daughter, let me tell you, she's not in the house, she can't hear me when I'm saying this, but she takes very, very long, very steamy showers. That wallpaper in this tiny little bathroom, it looks amazing. And every time I go to put a mirror on the wall, because we really need a mirror on the wall that the wallpaper's on, I'm like, I can't cover it up. Anyway, I will have to share that at some point. But yeah, Divine Savages were there, and they'd literally flown in that morning from a wedding. It was amazing. It was really lovely to see them. They're very smiley. I love seeing those guys. But their designs are just fabulous, and they're just going from strength to strength. And I love seeing people who are really passionate about what they do, and they're really enthusiastic, and they come up with these amazing designs, and they're just really good fun. So it was really lovely to see them. So if you haven't seen it, because they do kind of very British sort of style storytelling, kind of heritage florals and jungle motifs and lots of tongue-in-cheeks. And I remember a friend was doing a presentation, and she had an image come up, and I was like, oh, that's the Divine Savages crane fonder wallpaper that has cranes on it. So you can imagine if they're coming up with names like that, the designs are really fabulous. So go check them out. They're really great. So another brand. Now I'm going to just preempt this. I have not chosen all brands that I have spoken to on the podcast, but they were a lot of the people I went to see, because when you've made a connection with someone, you look forward to going and seeing them and catching up. And I know the PR for Fenwick and Tilbrook, and I've interviewed Simon from Fenwick and Tilbrook. who are another paint brand, and they're based in Norfolk. It's a small family-run business. I was chatting to the co-owners on the stand and as their lovely PR, and they were just telling me that they're I mean, I do know this, but I'm telling you, they mix their paints in small batches. They're all very much inspired by the natural world. They're very eco-friendly. They try very hard to make sure there's no waste. The tones that they had a really clever stand, actually. They had almost like an easel, and then a great big piece of kind of wood, and then they had all the samples painted onto like little, almost like a really fat dowel that had been cut and then dipped in the paint. So you could see them all together, and they look really effective, really, and you could just see they were beautiful. And they do paint swatches on their paint charts that are actual paint. They're not printed, so you know you're getting exactly that colour, which is really clever. So really nice to see them. I did ask them for the most popular colours, and the only one I can remember is oyster. It was the kind of colours you'd expect. Those people don't go for white, they go for a warmer colour, so like a creamier beige or a prettier sea colour. Pink, pale pink is really good. I was looking at them saying, I think it should be this one, pointing to like a sea green one. I love their sea green ones. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful paints. Oh, I've just realised Az was on the podcast. So Az, who does Fenwick and Tilbrook's PR, was on the podcast, and Fenwick and Tilbrook were on the podcast. So it's a double whammy. Okay, next up was Fritz Fryer. So we came away from the Best of British, which was where I saw most of those brands. And we were walking along. We went to see Fritz Fryer, who are my buddies. I love them. I feel like they're family, or I feel like I'm their family. I'm in the family. I might not be, but they are so incredibly welcoming to everyone. Now, I've hosted quite a few panel discussions with them, so I've been quite ingrained in their world. And it's really lovely. It's really lovely when you get to see behind the scenes what's going on. And I will always go and see those guys because I love seeing their lights. Their lights are beautiful. But they had been sending emails and putting out on social media that something new was coming. But they hadn't told anyone. And even I didn't know. So I went along and we went upstairs. I was like, what was the new thing? And Simon, the co-owner, said, go upstairs and have a look at our showroom. And what they've done is they've painted a wall black. And they were getting asked a lot of questions about their antique lighting. So Fritz Fryer was originally an antiques lighting company, and they would take lighting in and they would restore it. And they would like remake crystal chandeliers. If they were missing pendants, they could remake them, and they would remake the wires and the brass, and they could just fix anything. Or they might just like recondition it, clean a massive chandelier that's taller than me. They do all of those sorts of things. But when Simon and Karen took over, Simon started designing lighting, and now they have these incredible modern pieces. But what they've done is they've found that people kept asking in the London showroom about the antique pieces, and they only had a couple of chandeliers in there. So the newness was that they painted a wall black and they had filled the ceiling with the most amazing lighting. Now, I don't know if this is because I'm an interior stylist, but oh my God, I love that lighting. I love it. There were some pieces that I was looking at, like I was pointing out, I was talking to Callum, who's their marketing guy, and I was saying, oh my goodness, I really love that one. And he said about 95% of the antique lights hanging from this ceiling are British. And they looked Italian, and they just looked really ornate. They could have been from Paris, but a lot of them were from England. And they all have like a label on saying where they're from and the date and those sorts of things, which I thought was really fascinating. I think I would have struggled to pick one. There were so many there. And they weren't all chandeliers. They were all slightly different. I will put things in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast, not watching on the video. But I will put a link to, or I'll put an image on the show notes of what I'm talking about because I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Next, we went into another hall. And now I really wish I'd put the names of these halls down, but I didn't. So anyway, we walked in, and do you know when you see something and you just kind of go, oh, whoa, I like that. And it's something new. I think that's what we're always looking for. We're always looking for what's trending. We're always looking if there's a new colour or a new type of wood being used, or the way something is being produced. And what we were looking at was the most beautiful desk and chair. Oh, these chairs. Oh my goodness, there were these stools and these chairs. I shared these on Instagram after going to Clerkenwell, and the amount of interior designers who were saying to me, oh my God, those stools are amazing. So that was really interesting. I was like, yep, they're brilliant. So the company that we were talking about, or the design studio, it was called Studio Arvor means coast in Cornish, and I thought that was a really clever use of, like a really clever name, really grounding. And the reason I think it's so grounding is because the way they work, it's a couple, not a couple, it's like a duo, and these two people who are designers create the most beautiful pieces of furniture, and it's all sourced from local, so it's nearly all from the south coast, never eat should wheat, southwest coast, and they don't worry about there being little kind of knots or chinks or waves or something. Any imperfections inside the wood is considered to be a good thing, and they just go with it, and it makes it a really beautiful design element. But the way they put things together, the way they put the colours together is really, really lovely. So like I said, it's all sourced locally in Cornwall. They can tell you where the furniture that you purchase, they can tell you which sawmill the wood was bought from. Sometimes they can tell you like literally where the tree was that it was cut down. It's amazing. But they were really beautiful. Just the curves on them and the colours and the way, it was just quite a breathtaking piece of furniture, and it was really lovely, and it was very just, I wanted all of it. It was really refreshing to see something so new and so different. So I loved that. So the next person that we saw was Matthew Burt. Now, I've seen Matthew Burt before at Clerkenwell, and he has this table that is like a console, and the base of it just looks like a whale's tail. Really, really beautiful piece. So when I saw that, I was like, I remember him from last time. I remember what he's all about. But as we walked around the corner, we saw this wall, and it wasn't a massive wall, but it was just like a long, thin strip that went up from the floor to probably about 7 foot. And it had all these circular, what looked like pebbles, and all these pebbles were stacked against the wall, and it looked like they had this kind of sandy cement holding it all in place, but it looked very natural, and you could see all the lines on these pebbles. And as you got closer, you could see that actually these pebbles weren't stone. They were all wood, and they had all been carved out of different pieces of, well, I'm not even sure if they were different types of wood or if they were the same wood, but just because they were different trees, they came up in a different colour. But they looked very different. There was a variation in the colours of them. And as they were stacked, they were just mesmerising. And I said to the guy on the stand, what is this? Is this like a piece of art? Because it felt like it was very functional. And he said, well, actually, these are what's left over from a project that we worked on. So there was a house that approached Matthew to do a ceiling. He said, we've got this massive ceiling, it's concrete, it's very boring, but it's very much an indoor outdoor kitchen area, and it was massive. I think it was 7 meters by 7 meters. It was absolutely huge, but it had this huge ceiling that went up almost into imagine if you had like a chimney breast in the middle, but there was no chimney, and you had a hole at the top. It felt like it was sweeping up from the ceiling, from the sides of the walls up to the ceiling, so it wasn't flat. And the entire ceiling was covered in these wooden pebbles. And when I was talking to the guy on the stand, he was saying that the thinking behind the whole installation was that each pebble or each piece was a seed to mimic what a seed head looks like in a sunflower. So it was absolutely vast, And I was blown away by I walked away. I remember saying to my friends as we walked away, I feel so uncreative, because how does someone even think of doing something like this? To understand how to create the actual seeds out of the wood, make them all different shapes and sizes, the kind of the mechanics and the mathematics of creating everything and having it all go up into one space was just absolutely mind-blowing. It was just the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I absolutely loved it. And the texture, I'm a real pebble collector, when you go to the beach and you go, oh, this one's nice, it's got lots of lines in it. I'm going to take that one home and stick it in the bathroom. And I'm sure that's an ADHD thing. Anyway, I love a stone, so I really loved this piece, but the ceiling was just amazing. I would go and look up Matthew Burt and look at the kind of work he does, because it was just absolutely astronomical. It was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he's left me thinking, I want to see what he does next. I want to see what he brings to the table, as it were, next year, because I don't think you can top that. I thought it was amazing. You have to go to the show notes if you're listening to this so you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. The next company I want to talk about that I went to see was Bisley. Now, Bisley is the office furniture company, or I think of it as an office furniture company, who do the filing cabinets with the drawers. And they've been going for so long. I had no idea. They actually are based in Wales. Hence, we are doing a UK brand, not a British brand. And they've been going for 80 years and they're still made in Wales now to this day. I actually got invited to a press event a few days before the actual Clerkenwell opened. So #press invite. And it was so lovely. It was such a lovely event. And I wasn't quite it was basically they have this amazing collaboration with Gabriella Marcella, who is the artist behind Risotto Studio, and I love a bit of art, so I was really intrigued to see how they were going to kind of pull the two elements together. And that is what drew me to this press event, because I'm not one for going to Clerkenwell at night time. It's quite a long way from my home, but I was like, I do not want to miss this one, and I'm so glad I went. It was such a lovely event. And while I was there, I did a video. I videoed around the showroom because there was no one in there, because the showroom actually opened. The Clerkenwell, the Bisley Clerkenwell studio and showroom opened then. It was a brand new space, so no one had been there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity to walk around and filmed everything. I was very sneaky. I kind of do that. Someone showed me around and I got all the lowdown and all the new stuff. Oh my God, it was so amazing. I will have to share that on YouTube very soon. Now, the reason I hadn't shared it was because after doing my little walk around the showroom, I went into the area where the collaboration was being shown. And I got to stand and talk to Gabriella for absolutely ages. I almost feel like I commandeered her. She's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I love artists and creative people. And you know, when you meet someone and it just shines through everything that they talk about and the way they say things and the things they do. And, it was just, she was lovely, absolutely lovely. So I really enjoyed standing talking to her. And she has done what is called tessellation. So it's all these circles and lines. And she does this now. What was it called? Risograph. That's it. She was explaining to us. She did a talk and she was explaining at the event that her way of doing art is called risograph. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But what you do is you print out one colour and then it creates those patches are the right colour. And then you put it through the printer and you do a second one and it does the second colour. It's a bit like, I did lino printing when I was a kid. It's almost like the reverse of that. It does one colour after another, but it's a very specific art form. And she's created this design called tessellation. And it's kind of balls and lines and the colours are lovely. It's really, really retro colours. Really retro. And she did this talk at the evening event and then she said, I'd like you to sit down and have a play. So she gave us all these, like a little wooden frame, square frame, and then we would put the plastic elements that were circles and arches and little bit, just all different shapes that would all work together. But you had to put them where they needed to be to make them tessellate, to create art. And we were loving it. And it was really hard, much harder than she made it look, because things had to fit but also had to look good. And how everyone else was looking, you know, everyone would look at each other's and everyone had done it completely differently and chosen different colours and done different styles, and it was really good. So I loved that. And then I was so caught up in that when someone said they were leaving and I thought, oh, I'm going to walk with you to the station because I'm really good at getting lost, and if I go with you I won't get lost, I completely forgot to record any video of the really patterned Bisley units. And I was so annoyed with myself. So I went back a couple of days later during Clerkenwell Design Week when I was walking around all these showrooms during the day, and I captured another video. So I will share that in a separate video. I just needed to have that end bit to go on the end of my Bisley event video. So anyway, that will be coming out soon. I will share that all over the place. But the designs are really, really lovely. And Gabriella was really lovely. And she's opening a new studio in Glasgow, which I'm inviting myself to. Have you been to Scotland? I went to Scotland in December last year. I designed and styled a one-bedroom flat up there for my client. And I have to say, I have never fallen in love with a place as quickly as I did. It was absolutely freezing. I cannot wait to go back. So any excuse to get to Scotland on there. So Gabriella, if you're hearing this, send me an invite. I will be coming to your opening. Terrible, aren't I, inviting myself to places? Okay, so the next one I'm going to share is Timorous Beasties. Timorous Beasties are based in Scotland. Hence, again, we're not talking about British design, we're talking about UK design. I love Timorous Beasties. I love them. I've got a fabric sample from them from years ago. It's this crazy splattery velvet of all the bright colours that I love. They're the right kind of greens and the right kind of blues with a bit of bright pink and a bit of red. And oh my goodness, I love it. I absolutely love it. So I will always go into their showroom. Now, their showroom in Clerkenwell is really interesting. It's really long and quite narrow, but they've got these massive samples of everything. Like they've got hanging, I don't know what you call them, where you've got those massive kind of, you flick through them on the wall when you've got fabric or wallpaper and it's hanging on something, and you can open it up and pull one door to a side and keep moving, kind of fanning through them. There must be a name for those, but they've got massive ones of those. And I asked the lady at the desk, everyone was kind of serving, as it were. I was on my own by this time. And I don't like to interrupt if Timorous Beasties are talking to a designer who's going to be buying from them. I don't like interrupting them because I don't want them to lose a sale, just so I can get a bit of information. So I asked the lady on the desk if these were new designs, because I couldn't see anything new. And I thought, well, I'll just play ignorant and say, are these new, or is there something new coming? And she said, no, these aren't new. We've got new things coming out in September. And as I said that, the guy who was talking to one of the interior designers pulled out a few samples, and I got to see them and snap a quick picture. And all I can say is beasties is the right word, because there was this giant caterpillar, just huge on the wallpaper that I saw. And it made me think of, I'm going to show my age now, but if you've seen the film Labyrinth, there's this little caterpillar that talks and he goes, hello. And he goes, what did you say? And he goes, I said, hello. Him. It looked like him. It hasn't got a face on it, but it just reminded me of him. But it was really cool. And they've just got amazing like graffiti and just really lovely, really lovely. So I was really, really happy to see them, and happy to see that they are bringing out new collections, because newness is always good. We always get a chance to feature people. It's easy to feature people when something new is coming out. It's harder if someone's got the same thing or they haven't brought enough new things out. They can't just keep repeating the same images and the same products all the time. So newness is always really, really good. So I absolutely loved everything I saw. I loved all the conversations. I didn't get to see many talks, and I think I would have liked to have done that. And I know there was a section where someone had built a wall that was curved and like went onto the floor and then up in the sky, and it was like a big kind of just a wave of bricks. I didn't get to see that, and I'm a bit gutted about that. But they're the UK brands I really, really enjoyed. But there were a couple of non-UK brands that I would really like to just mention just quickly, because they wowed me. So I'm going to run through them very quickly with you, because I want you to get as much information from my brain as possible. So the first was Art. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's A-R-T-E. And I've seen their fabrics and wallpapers loads, but they had this amazing, it was called banana bark, where they weave it and twist it, and it becomes this textural wall that you just have to touch. There's so much natural texture coming through. Things that are made from kind of coir and bark and cork and just natural bark leaves. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I loved that. The other thing they did, which, oh my goodness, I could not get enough of it. The bark wallpaper, which is like, it looks like grass cloth. It's got row upon row upon row of these tiny kind of, it's almost like if you had lots of pieces of string stuck to a wall very close together. That's the kind of effect the bark had. It was lots of rows. I went round the corner and there was this kind of really retro style wall, and it was all furry. So it was like a chenille or a velvet, but it wasn't really a velvet. It was much more of a chenille, but it was dipped in and out. And the woman on the store came round and talked to me, and she said, this is foam backed, and then they pressure it so that some of it has grooves and some of it doesn't. And that was really lovely. I mean, it looked like it was straight out of something in Mad Men. It was so retro. It was absolutely fabulous. And I said, where would someone use this? What is the thinking behind it? And she said, well, it's for things like home cinemas. And I was thinking, no. Not home cinemas, podcast rooms. Podcast studios need better soundproofing. I need some of this wallpaper. I mean, they're panels rather than wallpaper, but very, very cool. Another thing I saw was String Furniture. They had these amazing, like, tomato red cabinets, and I'd never seen these cabinets before. And they had like holes in, like, what are they called? They're not pin boards, but you know, the boards with the dots and you hang things from them. It had loads of those in. That was really nice. And by this time, I was getting so tired. I think I did 20,000 steps that day. I was getting really tired. I'd been on my feet nearly all day, apart from when we sat down and had our picnic lunch. And I went into one of the kind of marquees in the middle of one of the squares. I wasn't quite sure what was going on in there. I just thought, well, I haven't seen this one. I'll walk in. And I came across the most gorgeous desk chairs I have ever seen. And you know how they just look super, super expensive and they've got all the bells and whistles. And I'm a little bit like, yeah, whatever. But these ones were in really nice colours. And my office is a beautiful kind of sea green sort of colour. It's called Sea Breeze. And it's just a really minty, pale green colour. And they had a chair in exactly that colour. And they had a pink one. And it was from a company called Hinomi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's from Singapore. And then the colours mean things. So the guy on the stand was saying that people always buy certain colours. I think he said pink. If people buy pink, the thing is that the pink colour means money will come to you, but it also means it will leave you at the same time. So people choose colours on what the meaning, or choose the chairs in the colours depending on what the meaning behind those colours were. And I thought that was quite interesting. I would like to find the chair that the money just comes. I don't want it to be leaving again. I want it to just stay. But anyway, I said to the guy, you know, tell me about these chairs. And he said, sit in one. And I thought, okay, I've been on my feet a long time. I wouldn't mind. So he started talking about the benefits of this incredible, it's called the H1 Pro V2. And it was the most ergonomic chair. He said, you will not find a more comfortable chair. And I was like, okay, come on, give me a sales pitch. So he said, right, twist the armrest. So the armrest went from being down by my side, and he said, twist them round. And I couldn't really get what he meant. And then he said, like this. And he moved the arms so that if you imagine where your hands are next to you, and then you push your hands out but hold the handlebars with the armrest with you, it pushes the whole thing out, but then it turns on itself. And what happened was they went from being down by my side to being up and at a funny angle, like so that they were leaning towards where I was sitting, so that I could rest my arms on the armrests, and then they would support my arms and my shoulders while I typed, because it's quite an unnatural thing to hold your arms out to type. But when they rest your arms on, I was like, my goodness, this is amazingly comfortable. It had never occurred to me to rest my arms when I'm typing. And he said, right, now pull underneath your seat. I was wearing a dress, and he's going, I can't do this for you. I've got to go down underneath your skirt. So I'm hiking my skirt up and I'm going down, and he's going, pull it. And I'm going, pull what? He said, the handle. I couldn't see a handle anywhere. So he showed me on the chair next to him where there was this kind of bar, but you had to give it a good pull, and then it flips over. And he said, now put your legs on those. So I'm sitting there with my arms resting on the arms rest in a kind of elevated position. And then my legs were rested, but it was underneath my calves. So my feet were dangling. I was instantly relaxed. I was just like, this chair is like floating while you're working. It was the right colour. It was supporting everywhere. I then asked him how much it was, thinking, I have seen these chairs. I mean, if you go into IKEA, they've got very expensive ergonomic chairs in there. So I'm thinking, this chair's going to be at least £1,000. And he said they're £595. And I was like, oh, thinking, that's much more reasonable because I've got £600 to spend on a chair. If I had money to burn, that is the thing I would have bought immediately. It was incredibly comfortable. I mean, just so comfortable. I've never had my legs raised while I'm working, and I was just sitting. I wasn't like leaning back or anything. I was just sitting, but everything felt supported. So yeah, I couldn't share what I saw at Clerkenwell without talking about this because it was so good. And the last one I'm going to talk about is Flokk. Now, Flokk was right where I was at the beginning, but did I go that way? No. I walked all around the world, and I thought I am not going to get there before Georgina Isaacs, who is one of our interior stylists, who is going to be coming on the podcast soon. She had styled this whole, I think she'd helped design and style the whole space. It was really beautiful, and I really wanted to see her, and I was really worried I was going to miss her because I'd spent so long walking around trying to find the showroom that I had practically walked past. The thing about Clerkenwell is that there are so many, it's almost like New York, it's blocks and squares, and you can be literally near one place, but you don't realise because you're walking towards somewhere else, and then you realise you've come back, and I am so directionally challenged. But anyway, I got there and Georgina was still there, and she showed me around, and then I bumped into someone else, and Georgina got called away, and but her stuff was fabulous. Her styling stuff was fabulous. She really hit the nail on the head with making sure that this office furniture company was showcasing. They had this whole stand. It was really clever. Like each, it was like a really big stand, but it had one item on it. So it would have one small chair on this really big stand, but the stand was the colour of the item. So if it was a pink chair, the whole base and wall was the same colour pink. And then it would have something. So one had like a big fluffy cloud, and it was talking about how it's all like, it was just talking about all the different elements that were, how it was recycled fabrics or metal or whatever it was. And remember one, because I think it's a Scandinavian company, and they had a, I might be wrong there, but they had these metal poles going down the ceiling, going down behind one of the items, one of the chairs. And it said that they reused these are kind of markers for snow plows that just get discarded, and they're really hard to recycle. And Flokk used them to basically they recycle these poles into these amazing chairs that look really beautiful and really kind of really edgy and designery, look really, really cool. But the way she styled the whole place, because it looked like an office, and there was upstairs, there's 3 floors on this whole showroom, but it was all the right kind of books, and she had the most amazing chess set. She sourced this beautiful chess set, but there were people sitting around it when I was there, and I couldn't take a picture because I thought they'd think I was a bit weird if I started taking the picture. But it was really cool. So and the flowers were really lovely, really lovely. But yeah, I was really impressed with the products that they did and how they just felt the whole show was very much based on lots and lots of sustainability and making sure people weren't greenwashing. They weren't telling us that things were going to be made from recycled materials when actually using recycled materials was going to produce more gases than it would be to just use something that was non-recycled. And I loved the honesty there. I loved it when people were saying that, I'm not saying Flokk, I mean in general, when people were being really, really authentic about this is how we're being green, but we're not quite there yet. We're working on it. And when the time comes, we will be doing everything. We're not greenwashing you. We're telling you exactly how it is. If we can't, we don't until we can, and then we will, is basically what they were saying. So that's it. That's a rather long-winded chat about what I saw at Clerkenwell. And I have to say that just the designs have been really brilliant there. Everyone's trying to do best practices. They're trying to be really good with their sustainability. They're using the right kind of substances. They're making products that are telling stories. And whether you were there for one day or you got to go more, you were going to go home with something really inspiring or knowledgeable or just opened your eyes, and it was really good. So I hope that's helped. I hope you're interested in some of those brands. If you are, please go to the show notes and I will share below so you can find them. And if you want to go next year, just sign up to their newsletter. It's Clerkenwell Design Week, CDW. I will put the link below so you can find them and get on board. And they do send emails throughout the year so you can keep on top of what people in the area are doing, because it's massive. Now, before we go, I want to share something that happened last week. So I had kind of over 2 weeks, I had quite a lot of events. I had the Bisley event that was in the evening, and that day I met an interior designer friend for lunch, and we always talk business. It's really inspiring and encouraging, and everything kind of slots into place. I've had quite a lot of conversations like that recently, always with interior designers. That's interesting. And there was Clerkenwell Design Week, there was Chelsea Flower Show, where I got to see Pippa Jameson's sensory retreat at Chelsea Flower Show with Graham and Brown's Paint, who was a guest on the podcast. Very interesting. And I came away and I did an Instagram story saying, if you're low and feeling stuck, get out the house. Because being at home and on your own isn't healthy, and it's not going to kind of spur you on. And I was just talking about how I'd spent lunch with my friend and I had an idea and she gave her 2 pennies worth about my idea, and then it helped me kind of clarify what it was that I wanted to offer. I've got a new thing I'm working on for Inside Stylists, which is very exciting for me and for the members, and which I will share obviously as soon as it's ready, which I'm hoping will be soon. But she really helped me clarify, and I came away on such a high. And then yesterday I met another interior designer friend who is working out her kind of area of expertise, and we were just talking about, it's really funny, I go into coach mode. I don't mean to. I ask questions. I've been coached so much, I think you automatically start asking other people questions that you've heard yourself being asked a lot. And she messaged me today and said, I really felt like a few things clicked into place. And I said, well, you've helped me click things into place as well, because she's very clever, very the psychology side of interiors, but not just about colours and things, a much deeper level. It was very interesting. She's coming on the podcast as well. I have to share her with you. She's brilliant. But what came of these kind of things and these events and these meetups and these conversations is that a lot of people when they're freelance are on their own, and it's quite, when you're insular and you're worried because work might be quiet or your client isn't shooting and you start getting stressed. I did this Instagram post that basically said, get out the house, go and speak to people, go and see something that will inspire you, change your scenery, do something that will uplift you, because staying at home and stressing isn't going to help. And you just come away lighter. So next week I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit more detail. I won't be waffling on like I did today. Today I just had to share it because I was very excited. But I really want to share it. So please tune in for that next week. And I'm going to stop talking now. Okay. I hope this was inspiring and useful, and I will catch you next week to talk about getting uplifted. Bye for now.